Hi, today I'm going to discuss with you about another important topic which has been often in news, the International Society for Sri Krishna Consciousness. Now, Iskcon, as commonly known, it's also popularly known as Sri Hare Krishna movement. It's actually one of the Vaishnava schools or Gaudiya Vaishnava Hindu religious organization. It was founded in July 1966 by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Although Iskcon's main headquarters is in Mayapur, West Bengal, and Iskcon today claims to have almost 1 million members in its following, Iskcon has a distinctive form of Hinduism. See, in the traditional form, Hinduism is a polytheistic system. That is, it believes in multiple gods, it believes in multiple forms of gods, whereas Iskcon relies entirely on monotheistic religion. Now, Iskcon's entire philosophy is based on Hindu scriptures, especially guided by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Although Iskcon traces its roots from the 16th century onwards, it really started to gain its strong followership in Americas, Europe, and Africa only in the mid to late 20th century. Now, there are certain things which are special and unique about Iskcon. एक तो Iskcon promotes lacto-vegetarianism, that is vegetarianism along with milk products. And it also promotes Bhakti Yoga, a format of yoga which is based on Bhakti. And the followers of Iskcon are known as Bhaktas, and they've dedicated their entire life towards Lord Krishna, Bhagwan Krishna, whom they honor as the supreme Godhead. So basically, Iskcon is a monotheistic religionism or monotheistic Hinduism, where they believe in only one God, Krishna, as everything. Krishna is the Sarva Sampan, everything, the creator, the former, the format of all gods. Vaishnavism essentially means worship of Vishnu. And Gauda is a particular branch of Vaishnavism to which Iskcon actually belongs to. And Gauda Vaishnavism as a religion, as a Hindu school, remains very active in West Bengal and Bangladesh. And that's why Iskcon has been quite popular in Bengal and Bangladesh. In fact, Gauda Vaishnavism was founded by socio-religious Bhakti reformer Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread it in the form of devotion or Bhakti throughout Bengal. Now, some of the core principles of Iskcon, if you observe, are based on continuous chanting the name of God, belief in only one God, which is Krishna, and also in the idea of communal worship. That is against the rigid caste structures of the traditional Hinduism. Iskcon believes in equality of all under Krishna. And they even emphasize on continuously chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the great mantra. Like Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. But although it started in 16th century, the philosophy of Iskcon or Sri Krishna Consciousness really became very popular in the 1960s. To be honest, 1965 in West, in New York, by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's follower Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Now, in the 1960s, because America was going through something called the counterculture, where American youth of the 1960s were attempting at countercultures. Countercultures included even hippie movement. So, during that period, the hippies and the youth period, Prabhupada started Hare Krishna movement, which eventually just exploded into a huge movement in San Francisco that year. And particularly, one of the earliest followers of Iskcon was George Harrison of Beatles. In fact, George Harrison of Beatles, the famous music band of the European world, even recorded several tracks with Hare Krishna's Maha Mantra, like for example, My Sweet Lord, etc. And eventually the first Hare Krishna community was established at New Vrindavan, which is located in West Virginia, and it was established by Sri Prabhupada only in 1968. Dheere dheere, in time, Iskcon expanded itself by more than 800 centers all over the world, and today claims to have almost 1 million followers. Prabhupada's writings, Prabhupada's translations of Bhagavad Gita, and all have been part of the Iskcon movement, including Bhagavad Gita as it's the main idea. Bhagavad Gita, as it is Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, some of the scriptures which Iskcon bhaktas or followers actually follow. Now, as I said, Iskcon strictly follows monotheistic, singular worship of Krishna. And they believe that Krishna is a Swayam Bhagwan, self-supreme personality of Godhead. And Radha represents his female counterpart. Iskcon also follows Advaitavadam, that is monoistic schools of Hinduism, where Atma Paramatma remains together. And Iskcon sometimes has also been called as Sanatana Dharma, Varnashrama Dharma, etc. As more accurate names of the system. But then look, there have been many sub-schools within them after the Prabhupada's period, and things have changed a lot. Pious believers of Krishna believe that Krishna is supreme to even the Trimurtis of Hinduism, Vishnu, Shiva and Brahma. That is the reason why we call Iskcon as the monotheistic tradition within the Vedantic Hinduism. By the 1970s, Iskcon became very, very popular because of their practice of Kirtan. Kirtan is essentially a congregational chanting or singing of Hare Krishna mantra continuously. Iskcon also started a tradition of meeting on the Sundays. Iskcon also started a tradition of meeting on the Sundays where all the followers of Krishna keep chanting, do public gatherings in the streets and parks, singing the mantra accompanied by Indian musical instruments like mridanga and hand cymbals and harmonium. By 1970s, by 1980s, Iskcon became extremely popular. In fact, japa or continuous chanting of the name of Krishna became synonymous with Iskcon. And Iskcon started to develop into a full-fledged movement. Although it started in 1965, and by 68 it became popular, and by mid-70s, by mid-80s, it became such a popular organization across the entire Western world that Iskcon devotees literally just exploded. And counterculture system of this era in Europe further encouraged Iskcon. There are primarily 4 regulative principles in Iskcon. Number 1, the followers of Iskcon actually follow lacto-vegetarianism diet. They prohibit consuming of intoxicants, including onion, garlic, coffee, tea, tobacco, cigarettes, drugs, alcohol. Iskcon also has a strict prohibitions on gambling. And also it prohibits draining of the sexual energy by engaging in illicit sexual activity or relationships outside the marriages. Now, some of the important festivals Iskcon even today celebrates, or Iskcon followers even today celebrate, is like Janmashtami, Radhashtami, Diwali, Ekadashi, Holi, Ram Navami, Gita Jayanti, etc. One speciality about Iskcon, which makes it unique within the Hindu schools, is the public preaching. Members of Iskcon try to spread Krishna consciousness primarily by singing mantras in open streets, also by selling spiritual books transcribed from their original languages and published in English from the period of Sri Prabhupadananda. In fact, as time went, Iskcon's prospective members were started to expand this philosophy, expand their movement through 4 methods. Like, one is individually motivated contact made with members in public areas, contact made through personal connections, and contact with sympathizers of movement who strongly encourage people to join the Iskcon movement. I mean, from Moscow to New York, from London to Delhi, everywhere Iskcon started expanding itself. By late 1970, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada even created a governing body commission for Iskcon, where it kind of created a kind of a document or a constitution for the Iskcon movement, which would continue after his death as well. We call this the Direction of Management, July 1970. It appointed a 12-member commission who will ensure that Iskcon will remain true to its original leanings and original teachings. This 12-member commission, all of them were also non-sannyasi. They were regular, they were like samsari, living the regular life. Most of these were actually foreigners anyway. After the establishment of the governing body commission, Prabhupada also appointed new leaders to renounce the everyday world and become sannyasis. Slowly, Iskcon also started encouraging sannyasatva. Like many foreigners, started to encourage this, and general idea was Iskcon members were not to get involved into financial dealings. But look, please understand, after Sri Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta's death, as it happens with every spiritual organization, Iskcon slowly started to move into occultistic practices, that is depending or following one particular person or literally worshipping individuals. Like for example, many of the governing body council members, early members, for example Hans Carey, who was known as Hansadatta, or James Immel, who was called as Jayatirtha, started to become almost like occultist cultural leaders in the New Vrindavan Committee of Virginia. And dhire dhire Iskcon, at times Iskcon did start to move away from this original teachings. As time went, by 1985, the governing body council started to change, and new ecclesiastical authority was established in Iskcon, and this started to make some important changes, like lowering the standards of living of people of Iskcon leadership, etc. Iskcon remains quite very important. Even today, it is overall run by a GBC, a global governing body council. There are some challenges. So the only first woman leader in Iskcon came in 1998. Malati Devi Dasi was actually the first appointed member of this governing body council. The only second woman was Deena Sharana, selected in 2009. Look, historians have different points of view. People have different points about how Iskcon shares their ideas of women equality and women leadership in the center, because there has been one majority group of Iskcon followers who want to maintain that the so-called traditional role for women in Iskcon as more appropriate. And obviously concerns have been expressed by many feminists that Iskcon's ideals are generally not really in line with the emerging feminism and equality of man and woman within the Hare Krishna community or Hare Krishna culture. Women do have a high respect within the Vedic culture, and within the Hare Krishna community, women are there and women do have existence, but it is still, as of today, as of 2019, also are still in numerically lesser number in Iskcon. Iskcon also had very strong influence on music, particularly the idea of kirtan, the continuous chanting of God's name, is very prominent for Iskcon's movement. And in fact, in the 80s, between 70s to 1980s, Iskcon developed a lot of musical culture and musical influence across the world, from Dallas, Texas to Derby, Belgium. Like some of the important kirtanars or singers of Iskcon were actually foreigners. Like for example, Janavi Harrison, Gauravani, Mayapuris. Some of these were European singers and American popular artists. In fact, George Harrison's 1970 hit "My Sweet Lord." John Lennon himself was also a member of Iskcon movement, the Hare Krishna movement, who say, give peace a chance. And the Beatles' 1967 track "I Am the Walrus" was also highly influenced from Iskcon. And Ringo Starr in 1971, "It Don't Come Easy," in fact, wrote based on Iskcon's ideology and Iskcon's thought process. In 1973, Iskcon's UK branch even purchased the Bhaktivedanta Manor, where they eventually established the Iskcon temple in London. And among the Beatles stars, George Harrison was really the only one who fully was becoming a member of the Krishna Consciousness. And in fact, in 1980s, even hardcore punk and hard rock punks like Cro-Mags even became members of Iskcon consciousness movement. By the 1990s, an entire underground, Krishna core movement actually elaborated and established, with coming of new bands, new musical bands like Shelter and 108. And what they've done is they've preached Krishna's philosophy or Iskcon philosophy using Western music, like rock music to soft rock to hard rock. Every kind of thing was done. And even in 2020, Willow Smith, Janavi Harrison celebrated a very famous song called Surrender, Krishna Keshava, and even the idea of rice. One of the most important tenets of Iskcon movement is strict vegetarianism. Iskcon from the very beginning believed in food distribution and opened vegan and vegetarian eateries across the places they were there. They became very, very popular in America. Not all restaurants opened by Iskcon members are officially affiliated with Iskcon, but generally these restaurants were eventually known as Govindas, and it started to become a brand, Govinda's restaurants. Iskcon followers refer to the diet they eat as Krishnatarian, more or less like lacto-vegetarianism, which includes vegetarianism excluding garlic, onion, red lentils and mushroom, and also milk products is fully used in Iskcon. When we see the demographics of Iskcon has more than 1 million members across the world. Just in Great Britain there are 15,000. And thanks to the counterculture of the 1960s, North America, Western Europe, even in Africa, we got Iskcon. By 2000, it was estimated that about there were less number of Iskcon members in America, but Iskcon depended heavily on the Indian diaspora and also the Westerners who wanted to embrace Hinduism. In most of North America, many Americans embraced Iskcon. Having said all of this, this was Iskcon's popularity. It started just as a congregation, then eventually became almost like a cult, like a practice, etc. Iskcon has had its own share of problems, its own share of controversies time and again. Like, take for example, People vs. Murphy case in 1976, where Iskcon, Hare Krishna movement, the Queens County Court of New York, came to the judgment that Iskcon was actually a religion with its roots in India, and that two of the Hare Krishna movement members claimed that Iskcon had allegedly imprisoned their children through brainwashing. Eventually, although the case was dismissed, but this case gave a lot of, negative popularity to Iskcon. And eventually in 1984, George versus International Society of Sri Krishna Consciousness of California also had a suit of lengthy appeals, mixed judgment, and the problem was some Americans like Marcia and Robin George accused Iskcon of kidnapping their son Robin and indoctrinating, or what you call brainwashing him into Krishna consciousness and trying to convert his religion. Eventually that also became a very big issue. And one case in point which needs to be specifically highlighted is the issue of Kirtananda Swami or Swami Bhaktipada, a leader of Iskcon organization in 1987. He was the leader of the New Vrindavan in Virginia. He was accused of racketeering, money laundering, etc., which in 1996 he agreed. In 1996, Swami Kirtananda even pleaded guilty to one count of racketeering and served 8 years of the 20-year imprisonment. He was eventually released in 2004. They also found him involved in mail fraud, racketeering, and indoctrinating people, etc. The most dangerous of Iskcon's issue was the accusation of child abuse. In the 1990s, Iskcon did face severe challenges of child abuse, and its leaders, in fact, many Iskcon's leaders in India acknowledged, they accepted physical, emotional, and sexual abuse of children who were sent to live in rural communities or boarding schools in United States and India in the 1970s and 80s. In fact, Iskcon eventually became quite unpopular during this period, and a lot was done. Later, Iskcon tried to fix this internally by creating so many safety regulations like Iskcon Resolve, Iskcon Child Protection Office, etc., mainly to control such things. In Bangladesh, given that Bengal is where Gaudiya Vaishnavism started, Iskcon remained always in continuous challenge with the government there. Like one of the Iskcon members, Amit Saha, was given life imprisonment for another member of Iskcon, Abrar Fahad. In 2024, in Chattogram, Bangladesh, Iskcon was attacked by Bangladeshi law enforcement, and Iskcon temples, Iskcon institution was really attacked very badly in November 2024. Again, Saiful Islam, a lawyer of Chattogarh Metropolitan Magistrate Court, was eventually killed during a clash between security forces and the protesters demanding the release of Hindu leader Chinmay Krishna Das. And it is being believed that he was beaten to death by the protesters who were promoting or who were supporting Islam, who are promoting Iskcon. There has also been some issues about Iskcon. In 1974, Iskcon was attacked by other cult members within America, where people of other religions did see Iskcon as a major challenge. And in 2015, in Bangladesh, Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh terrorists even attacked Iskcon. And after Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina government fell off, Iskcon did get into a lot of trouble. Iskcon get into a lot of trouble, particularly with the newly coming UNIS government of Bangladesh. Iskcon temple, Sri Hare Krishna Namhata Sangha in Bangladesh, is still there, but few of its leaders have been now banned from in Bangladesh, and this remains a major challenge for Iskcon. This continues to be a major confusion for Islam, for Iskcon. And time and again, Iskcon does get into troubles once in a while. But see, look, one has to understand that as a religious organization or a group expands, naturally after the end of the early gurus, there are deviations bound to happen. Some of the famous Iskcon temples or Iskcon centers are, as I said, Iskcon had more than 800 temples and 12 state-recognized educational institutions, 25 affiliated and non-affiliated institutions within India. Within India, Iskcon disciples are more conservative than Iskcon disciples of the West. I mean, there is also a difference between Iskcon followers in India and the West. In the West, they are more liberal, more free, more understanding. In India, they kind of are more conservative and more restricted. Iskcon's Mayapur Center, Iskcon's Vrindavan Center, Iskcon has a center in Raipur. It also has a center in Vrindavan, Chandrodaya Mandir. It has a center, Prarthana Parthasarathi Mandir in New Delhi, Radha Krishna Mandir in Chennai. There's also one in Salem. There's one in Nepal. But look, Iskcon overall has a very big presence. It also runs some subsidiary institutions like Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, a non-profit organization which translates Indian Hindu scriptures into other languages, native languages in different countries and sells them. Then Iskcon also has an international society for cow protection, where it claims to present alternatives to agriculture and dietary practices that support and depend upon the meat and dairy industry's slaughter of the cow. They kind of are against cow slaughter. Iskcon also has a tribal care trust, an affiliate program targeting many tribal people. And Iskcon recently also created a Pandav Sena, like a youth organization To be honest, it started in 1994, but became very active only after 2008. Now, it basically comprises of professionals and university students who host annual international mentorships and reunion retreats for its members. Pandav Sena also established Krishna Consciousness societies across 30 universities in UK. Many universities also have such a similar student groups. Now, where does it all fall? Now, based on all this information, where does it fall? Iskcon started in 65. Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada started as a great organization. It's doing fantastically well. It does a splendid job, and it has main headquarters in Mayapur. After the original founder's death, it did get into some troubles, some issues of child sex abuse, some issues of criminal cases. In America, many Americans actually treat Iskcon more or less like an occult system, where they are indoctrinating people into a particular type of philosophy or a religious conscience, which may not fit right with the liberal free society and a Christian nation of America. Although America is kind of technically secular, not a Christian state, but the society is Christian. So often now and then, Krishna Consciousness movement does get into trouble with others in Western nations. Within India, they're very conservative. Naturally, India is more or less their home ground. So they have very strong presence in India. But yeah, overall, it is actually a religious organization with more than 800 temples for strictly following Gaudiya Vaishnavism, serves across the world. And one very good part of Iskcon is the charity work. Iskcon runs a lot of charity schools, a lot of food distribution, free food distribution, and it also encourages people to follow Krishna, a monotheistic religious system. Okay, it needs to see how Iskcon will go. As with every religious school or every religious philosophy, there are some positives, there are some negatives. Iskcon does get into trouble every now and then. But then, overall, if you observe, unlike many of the schools of Hindu philosophy like Osho or others, Iskcon has survived all the sails. Storms have come, storms have gone. Iskcon has survived very strong. That's it in this video, guys. That was a quick idea about Iskcon that I gave you. Keep following me and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I'll shortly be doing another video about some more information. Okay, thank you. Subscribe, like, follow and share. Bye-bye.